Many of us have lost touch with our instincts. Dogs have the ability to sense what's really going on, and we can learn from them by paying attention to nonverbal cues such as body language, and energy. We can get to know our friends better, loved ones, and ourselves in a more insightful and meaningful way. Dogs are social animals who love to keep the peace. They easily work out disagreements between one another before moving on, and there is rarely conflict in their packs because of this. If we preemptively dealt with conflicts before they escalated, the world would be a much better place. Holding on to negative feelings tends to make them multiply and prevent us from moving forward. Train is a Chesapeake Bay Retriever rescue who traded in a harsh life of abuse for one as a drug detection dog. It seemed like a perfect fit, however. Train struggled to find his place at the training academy. He was far more interested in being a dog than a police canine. He failed out of narcotics school because he was too energetic. He was like a bull in a china closet, but Train still had one heck of a nose on one that Karen DiMacio, a conservation biologist, wasn't ready to see go to waste. Karen was looking to gather a team of dogs for a research project in the Argentine province of Missionaries. She knew that with a sniffer like Train on her side, she'd surely find what she was looking for. Scat, or more commonly known as poop, actually plays a major role in the work of conservation biologists. Using droppings, researchers can gather valuable information about an animal, including their species, sex, and living environment. Everybody leaves poop behind in the forest, and you can figure out which habitats they like and which habitats they avoid. Karen and her team were looking to pinpoint the habitats of endangered animals such as jaguars and oncillas. However, this task is not an easy one if you can't track down these creatures in the first place. That's where Train came in. Karen hoped that the former drug dog in training could use his highly sensitive nose to pick up Scat's senses and lead them to the elusive animals. Although Train's excitability had hampered him at the academy, Train proved that he was more than capable of excelling at his new job. Not only was he quick to pick up the scents of the animals, but his high energy also helped them collect results at record-breaking speed. The group spent the next year tracking animals through the Argentine wilderness. Train, always happily bounding along at the head of the pack. By the time this first collection effort had come to a close, Train and his incredible nose had covered over 600 miles of forest, an incredible achievement. Train was a machine. Karen and her team used the data collected from the scat to pinpoint which forest areas should be prioritized in their conservation efforts. They could also determine if any of the animals were being affected by humans encroaching upon the land. In the past, conservationists like Karen employed cameras and sensors to photograph and track animals. However, this method proved inefficient as the creatures needed to actually pass in front of the cameras for researchers to document them. These cameras also proved to be a huge deterrent for the Argentine farmers whose land some of the animals lived. Many of these landowners were hesitant to allow camera traps on the property, fearing that their privacy and livelihood were at risk. But with Train and a colleague named April in tow, the farmers were much more receptive to allowing Karen and her team onto the land. After all, who wouldn't want to watch two adorable pups frolic and play? Gavel dogs, there's a reason we call the man's best friend. We can learn so many things from a dog's behavior, personality, demeanor, resiliency, and most importantly, the willingness to provide their family members with unconditional love, loyalty, and companionship down to their very last breath. You come in the door for a long day's work. The dog doesn't judge you. He doesn't care how you're dressed or if you just had a really bad day. No matter the situation, your dog is happy to see you. You greeted with the same enthusiasm each and every time you walk in that door. A dog has the ability to live in the present moment. They don't regret the past or worry about the future. If we can learn to appreciate and focus on what's happening in the here and now, we'll experience a richness of living. In the presence of a dog, somehow nothing else matters. A dog is handing out pure love, sparing no expense, and asking absolutely nothing in return. There's consistency, love, and the beauty of life at its finest. For most people, dogs are furry, little angels who can do no wrong. Buddy made a complete mess of his dinner. Good boy. Buddy chewed up the antique oriental rug that's been in our family for countless generations. Good boy. But in the working world, dogs are on a shorter leash. When one Australian pup struggled to make it into the police academy, officials were forced to make a tough call about the pup's future. Sadly, the charming German Shepherd was forced to do something drastic. If he ever wanted to rejoin the workforce, meet the adorable German Shepherd puppy and Australian resident Gavel at just 6 weeks old. He caught the eyes of the Queensland police as they saw great potential in the bright-eyed and bushy-tailed pup. They had big plans for him. Little Gavel was determined to be granted acceptance into the Queensland Dog Squad. As he wanted to follow in the footsteps of the family members, he had a 16-month training program ahead of him, and he was ready to track down some bad guys. Not only was Gavel hoping to make the force proud, but he wanted to make his foster handlers proud too. There were more than just a few pounds on his pup's shoulders. As Gavel had people counting on him, the officers were confident he had the right stuff for the lawful job. Sometimes life doesn't go the way we want. Gavel was confident with no nervous tendencies and shows willingness to retrieve. A prey drive. Ball drive can be motivated by food or reward. By this point, it seemed that Gavel was going to be a star student, don't you think? Before he started his training though, he made his highly anticipated debut to the public in 2016. He accompanied Governor Paul, the Jersey, and his wife at a function dedicated to honoring the Queen's 90th birthday. It was a big day for little Gavel, as he met an aggregation of important human officials such as politicians, judges, business, and community leaders, as well as former governors. One of these bigwigs in particular took a liking to Gavel. Former Governor Mary Marguerite Lane Ford couldn't keep her hands off the warm Gavel, which is no surprise, considering she owned many German Shepherds as a Fenberg resident. However, Gavel's engagement with prestigious government officials was just getting started. Usually, puppies in training are fostered by a fellow Queensland police officer, but Gavel was a bit different. In an unusual turn of events, it was decided he would reside with Governor Jersey and his wife at the government house. Governor to Jersey made sure to give Gavel a proper tour of his new illustrious home, as well as assist in familiarizing the shepherd with new people, considering his boot camp training was to start soon. This is when a different side of Gavel emerged. Gavel proved to be a bay or softy. He'd take rest breaks, play with toys, and stride through the flowers. Gavel got lost in his own downtime, which caused people to raise an eyebrow and wonder how he performed in the squad. The official training began with months' worth of socialization and obedience practice. As expected, this was not an easy task for the playful shepherd. At 10 weeks old, Gavel still had heaps of uncontrollable puppy energy, which was slightly concerning for police recruit. Gavel was still not sleeping through the entirety of the night. Still, no one was ready to gear up on Gavel, as they figured his maturity milestone was waiting just around the corner. As the months went by, that maturity milestone seemed further and further away from his tiny paws. Gavel never rounded that monumental bend. It was a tough decision, but in February 2017, the Queensland Police officially discharged innocent Gavel from his training, with graduation just 6 months away. They said that Gavel did not display the necessary attitude for life on the front line. It was a huge shock to everyone who fell in love with the adorable pooch, but fighting crime just was in the cards for him. Subsequently, the question that haunted nearly everyone down under was, what was to come of Gavel? However, being the good-looking service dog that he is, he didn't have to spend a lot of time standing in line with the unemployed, as when Governor Paul, the Jersey, heard the cute dog's training was canceled. Because of his friendliness, he stepped in and officially adopted the pooch. Could it be that the governor allowed Gavel to live like a king because he was paired with Governor Paul, the Jersey? It seems like he fell into a better job after being a Gavel for just a few months. All he had to do was just be himself, and it worked. He became the vice-regal working dog. The family knew he wasn't cut out for investigative work and instead pushed him toward diplomatic roles. Gavel has since outgrown for ceremonial coats, undergone a career change, which in turn brought untold joy to the lives of the governor, his staff, and the thousands of Queenslanders who have since visited the state. Gavel still had some important daily duties to conquer in his role, like being a gracious host of guests and entertaining tour groups that attended the government house. He wears a specially made government house coat with the governor's personal standard. The Street Edwards crown and the broga, the official bird emblem of Queensland, all embroidered onto it. In case you doubt the legitimacy of Gavel's role in Australia's government house, he even had to sign a contract. It is still a legal process after all. The pine-sized regal mongrel adores the outdoors, and sometimes they'll even help the government house's horticulture team with their grueling yard work. His version of help generally consists of emotional support. The horticultural team deeply appreciates his assistance. Gavel took a shot in the dark at one career and wound up excelling in an entirely different one after unexpected failure. Gavel embarked on a new path, which is more common than you might think among working-class dogs. He just needed someone to take a chance on him and let him be himself to show the love he has to offer all over the world. Dogs and their keen senses of smell have become major tools in the field of law enforcement. These detection dogs are trained to recognize and seek out all manner of potentially dangerous contraband, illegal drugs, weapons, and even people. However, even with all the necessary skills, not every dog is cut out for a job like this. Being a detection dog takes patience and self-control. In a way, these pooches have to behave more like humans than animals, a tough task indeed. Gavel even got to sign the contract that says that duties include welcoming visitors and attending official ceremonies, often dressed in fancy little outfits. Gavel, you did good for yourself, little fellow. What do you think of dogs? Getting of being too friendly? Tell us in the comments below. We'd love hearing what you have to say. Thanks for watching. See you next time.